saw on National Geographic hotspots of the world in terms of contaminated sites. Simcoe County was one of the few sites that was in that list of hotspots, and specifically it was the Posey dump site. 15 years ago I was told the plume was moving towards Ososony Woodland Beach. I'm told now it's moving south towards Elmvale. There's a lot of uncertainty as to what is happening underground. The question that I have to Mr. McCullough and staff, are you comfortable that you know the full extent of where the contaminants are underneath the ground that we walk on, the dump sites that are in the county? Are you comfortable that you know the full extent, how much is leaching, where it's moving, and on that, why are we putting another dump site that would just compound the problem that we already have here in Simcoe County?
You had a number of questions, so please correct me if I missed some in my answering. The first thing I want to point out is the Posey site is not a county landfill site, it's a private site, and it's one of those historical old sites like that we took over.
But it is in Simcoe County, absolutely. And it's compounding the problems that we have underground.
Absolutely.
It's not, and you know the extent of that.
And I don't know the extent of Posey, I'm not the regulator, perhaps Chris would be better to speak to that. But what I would like to speak to is your other point, and I absolutely understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. The old ways that landfills were operated, without engineered, without any idea where they placed them, caused some off-site impacts that today we wouldn't. Site 41, yes, we know very much about the hydrogeologic setting. We know a lot about the stratigraphy in the area. We know that location can be developed to be a safe landfill site, and that's what we're doing, because there's been a lot learned over the years. The Ministry of the Environment came in as a regulator when basically those sites like Posey were already up and operating, right? Those sites didn't go through the sort of approval process, the location exercise that a site like Site 41 did to be protected. And the Posey site's developed in a very different area. It's downward gradients, it's built on sand. This is my understanding, and again, maybe Chris is better to speak to it, but Site 41 has natural protective features along with engineered protective features that go in to protect the groundwater. Those old sites like Posey do that.
I accept your point about having better knowledge now than we did 30 years ago. But I don't think that you or anyone else here has the full knowledge as to what contaminants are leaching into our groundwater in Simcoe County. I don't think, respecting the fact that you don't have responsibility for Posey, that was before you. We as residents can't say, you know what, that groundwater was contaminated 15 years ago, so I really won't feel the impact of it. Or 20 years ago, I won't feel the impact of it. I'll drink it, doesn't matter. We are concerned about the cumulative effect of another dump site to what already is happening in Simcoe County, irrespective of whose responsibility those dump sites were. So, do you know the full extent? The question is, do you know the full extent of the contaminants that are leaching from those sites that may not be your responsibility, because there is a cumulative effect. You keep adding more dump sites, eventually we're going to be just drinking leach garbage.
And that's why the sites that we're developing, the sites the county has taken over, we've re-engineered those. But this is the first site we started from scratch, essentially. And it's being built from scratch to protect the environment, much unlike some of those other sites that we're
given a warranty on a product that is as long as a car.
Yeah.
No, 5 years that it's going to last that long. How can we expect this to be in perpetuity, that there's going to be no problem?
I understand the concern. You need to understand that liner was added after the fact. It's an extra protective feature that Simcoe County has added to the design.
I would like all of this to be recorded and be read 20 years from now, so that people can see the folly of our decisions.
Yeah.
But perhaps Mr. I could come up and speak to some of your other issues, because certainly the county has got a number of monitoring programs at our sites, and yes, we're fully aware of what impact those sites that are monitored are having on the environment, but the private sites
So you don't have
similar.
you don't have a full picture of the contaminants that are going into the water from all the sites.
We don't regulate the private sites. That's what the regulator, the MOE does. Right?
That, I'm sorry, but you need to know what the full picture is before you say this is not going to have any impact on us.
Mr. Williams, I hate to interrupt, and my apologies to everyone present. The members of council that are here, our meeting starts in about 14 minutes. As you know, procedurally, we need to be there at the beginning of the meeting. I would like to extend my regrets that we must leave early, but we must, and please take no offense to that. This has been very informative. I thank our guests, I thank you, but we must be there for the beginning of this meeting.
Okay, just since I've got you at the microphone.
Councillor Chris Carey and Mayor Palmer.
I was given to understand that part of the county council meeting will be a closed session.
The agenda has to be approved first, and I believe we need to be there for the approval of the agenda before any actions of county council can be taken.
And I just, what I was told, and I'm only going by what I was told.
The agenda shows in-camera session going, beginning at 11, after the approval of the agenda, if that's the direction of county council and the warden, and that will be, I'm sure, some discussion, and then after that will be open session, yes. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know.
The question that's before us now is what's the province doing to monitor not only the county operating sites, but also the privately operated ones?
The private landfill sites that have a certificate of approval in the province of Ontario have groundwater monitoring programs and surface water monitoring programs as part of their closure plan and certificate of approval. Sites such as the Posey landfill site has an extensive groundwater monitoring network around it. The ministry continues to monitor the residential wells that are downgrading into the Posey landfill site, and also provided a water treatment system for any of the wells that were impacted by the activities of the private Posey landfill site. Also, an order was issued on the owner of the Posey landfill site to resume enhanced groundwater monitoring program and provide a groundwater remediation program for that site. There are no groundwater impacts to any of the beach areas, and the plume has not extended, based on the monitoring data that we have, beyond the ridge above Georgian Bay. Other closed landfill sites around Simcoe County and the province, there are, as many of you are aware, I think in Simcoe County, Barrie and Orillia, there are over 70 to 80 historic landfill sites from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, very small landfill sites that are, some are on public lands owned by the county, some are on lands owned by the large municipalities, others are on private property. If those landfill sites, if issues are identified in relation to groundwater or surface water impacts or landfill gas migration, then the ministry requires the property owner to take immediate steps to rectify those problems and restore the environment.
While you're there, sir, if I may, my name's Richard Marshall. I'm from Elmville. It's stated here, at times, groundwater at the site does not meet Ontario drinking water standards for some aesthetic parameters. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, the monitoring data, the natural groundwater quality at Site 41 is some of the monitoring, that's a statement from the county. They have elevated levels of iron and manganese. Those are naturally occurring elevated aesthetic parameters. They're not health-related parameters. But there are many aquifers and areas around Simcoe County that have elevated levels of not only iron or manganese,
I'm asking
sulfur.
Site 41, please.
Yeah, that's at Site 41. Those are naturally occurring elevations of metals in the groundwater. That monitoring data is in all of the monitoring reports that go back, I think, 20 or 25 years. We have similar conditions in municipal wells where there are elevated levels of iron and manganese, and you end up with rusty staining in your bathtubs or sinks, or black staining, that kind of thing, with those elevated metals. Those are aesthetic parameters. They're not a health concern until they get way over the drinking water objectives, in which case the municipality will step in. if it's a municipal supply, and treat that water to remove them, or find a new supply.
Thank you.